There are 600,000 Vietnamese refugees in this country. Mostly they are known for their intelligence, hard work, and what good Americans they have become. But there are also some criminals, many of them young men who spent years in refugee camps waiting to get into America. They formed gangs in the camps, gangs that stayed together as they spread from coast to coast in this country. Anthony Mason reports.
Den Vo, a Vietnamese immigrant, owns a small store in downtown Boston. But these days, Den Vo is worried about more than just his business. He's afraid for his life. This man, 23-year-old Mai Song, is accused of heading a gang of Vietnamese youths who have chosen Den Vo as one of their targets for extortion.
He opened his jacket, and I saw, and got, if you call police, I will kill you.
But in spite of the death threats, Den Vo did call the police, filed a complaint, and has agreed to testify. But every day, his store is now watched by a patrol car, a sign that Boston police believe the gang has emerged as an organized force, which must be confronted.
We have over 100 names of individuals that are somehow linked to the various segments of the gang, and the list is growing, unfortunately.
And growing in other cities as well. A rash of recent cases in Asian communities has convinced many police departments that Vietnamese gangs have formed an informal network to commit crimes all over the country.
We've identified contact people in Philadelphia, New York, Boston, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Falls Church, Virginia.
In December, 33-year-old Son Van Vu was found shot in the head in a motel room in Hollywood, California. Police have linked Vu to this gang of Boston teenagers, recently arrested for robbing a jewelry store in Lowell, Massachusetts. And police here in Toronto, Canada, believe the same gang may be connected to the robbery of this jewelry store this past December. A surveillance camera recorded the crime. In a scenario similar to those played out in other cities, two Vietnamese youths enter the store separately and appear not to know each other. Suddenly, from inside his coat, one pulls a gun. The second man pulls a hammer and smashes the display case. In slow motion now, the gunman struggles with the owner. A shot is fired, breaking the window, but not injuring anyone. The owner tries to go for help, but he's dragged back inside. Grabbing the bag of jewelry, the robbers are out the door, only 16 seconds after pulling their weapons.
They do the holdups here and leave the area, and then police investigations look for local persons being responsible when in fact they're hundreds of miles away.
Asian communities in major cities make perfect hiding places. Their languages are alien to most police officers, and many Asians won't report crimes, partly out of fear, partly because of pride.
Some don't like to report the police because they are ashamed for the whole community.
Ashamed?
Yeah.
That's why Den Vo's testimony has become so important.
He came in my store and asked for $100.
He's willing to risk his life, even though they might kill him because of testifying, but he's willing to go out and sacrifice his life in order for the Vietnamese community to be respected throughout.
But for now, the Vietnamese community is watching Den Vo.
If anything should ever happen to Den Vo, I don't know when we'll get another victim to come and testify in court against these kids again.
And Boston police know they'll need similar acts of courage if they're going to keep an ethnic gang from growing into a new mob. Anthony Mason, CBS News, Boston.
The Colombian drug lord Carlos Lehder has apparently been whisked away to a secret cell hundreds of miles away from where he was being held in Florida. His lawyer says federal agents moved Lehder for security reasons. The accused drug trafficker was nabbed in Colombia last week after a shootout with police. He was quickly flown to the United States to face drug smuggling charges. Lehder's arrest has the U.S. Embassy in Colombia on alert as well. Officials have stepped up security after several threats believed linked to the arrest were made against the embassy. The U.S. ambassador to Colombia flew to Washington unexpectedly Thursday, but embassy officials denied the trip is related to the threats. CNN's Lucia Newman, who talked to Ambassador Charles Gillespie before he left, has this report.
Nowhere in the world except Beirut is security tighter around an American embassy than here in Bogota. The increasing threat of attack from leftist guerrillas and the drug mafia over the last 2 years means diplomats have to be driven to and from work in armored plated cars, escorted by jeeps with armed bodyguards. They're forced to live in apartments from the 3rd floor up. And diplomats' children aren't allowed at this posting. This this month's capture and extradition to the U.S. of Colombian cocaine lord Carlos Lehder has sent out fresh warning signals to American diplomats, especially DEA officers, all prime targets for reprisals by the cocaine mafia, which has reportedly threatened to kill 10 Americans for every Colombian extradited.
When a thing like the Lehder arrest happens, I feel obligated to turn to everybody and say, okay, let's sharpen up, keep your eyes open, watch what's going on. But we don't really change what we're doing.
Ambassador Gillespie already reportedly has 32 bodyguards. The embassy has also instructed the 17,000 registered Americans living in Colombia, the majority in Bogota, to take precautions. At the Colombo American Center for English, security has been tightened.
I get up at 4:30 in the morning, leave the house at 5:30, and come here at 6, so I'm right in the streets of apparently a dangerous time, but it has never bothered me.
But most American teachers here are nervous and don't want to talk about it. At the Nueva Granada school this week, an increased number of American students are being picked up by their parents or by bodyguards.
People here, again, who know Colombia, have lived here long enough to understand it, know how to live in this environment.
A highly placed Colombian source connected to the anti-drug offensive has told CNN that he doesn't believe the drug mafia will try and kill off Americans indiscriminately, but rather will try and kidnap what he called a big fish that could be swapped for Lehder. One of the main kidnapping candidates, he said, is the American ambassador. Lucia Newman, CNN, Bogota, Colombia.
Our daily difference now, crime and punishment. Think of crime in the streets and chances are you're thinking big city, New York, Chicago, Los Angeles. But violent crime is a plague in America's smaller cities as well, and the criminals these days, all too often, are children. NBC's Bob Herbert.
When you think of Omaha, you don't usually think of gunfighting and kids dying in the streets. But times have changed.
It happened so fast, he just pulled it behind his back, and he cocked it, and he shot me.
They shot me in the arms and in the back, through my heart.
My brother got shot 2 years ago, right across the street over there.
During the 1980s, street gangs came to Omaha, and with the gangs came guns.
I've done been about 3 funerals last year alone, you know. That's enough. That's too many.
It's like a habit. You can't walk the street safe without a pistol.
Now, huge numbers of children and teenagers in Omaha's poorer neighborhoods are carrying guns, and many are using them.
Yeah. So you would shoot somebody for the neighborhood?
I shoot somebody for the hood. If I'm disrespecting the hood, they gotta pay the price.
First time my first gun was, I was 14, little 25 automatic, and it went on from there.
That little gun right there can do a lot of damage. You shoot all 6 bullets in a person, they gone, they through.
In Omaha, kids can get guns about as easily as they can get into an R-rated movie. I met these 2 teenagers tonight. When I asked them if they had access to guns, they said sure. Where did you get that gun?
From a clucker.
What's a clucker?
A person who smokes crack.
How much did this cost?
$20.
What kind of gun is it?
38 special.
The kids don't think much about the consequences of pulling a trigger. Those thoughts belong to the people who get shot, like 20-year-old Del Reese Thompson.
I didn't look at the blood. I didn't look at where he shot me at until I got in the car. But I knew I was shot because I was burning real bad inside.
Del Reese lost the use of her left hand when she was shot, but at least she survived. In Omaha, just like in the big cities, funerals for young people are commonplace.
We have been too quiet for too long. Omaha, you are a good place. Your people are good people. But the violence you tolerate is destroying you, one innocent person at a time. No more.
Carl Washington has spent the last 5 years trying to get young people off the streets of Omaha.
A lot of times kids feel that how you remedy a problem is the final solution is with a gun. 1991 has been the worst year in my life. I've had a lot of close people that have been shot. 1991, it's a year that I'll remember until my dying day.
I like to see our race come together more, you know, because this is ridiculous. You know, I have friends beside me dropping like flies. Sad.
Saddest of all, the parents of the victims. Renee Henderson's 19-year-old son, Cedric, was shot in the head a couple of months ago. He is now lying in a hospital, motionless and unable to speak.
He didn't look like my child at all. And I really hurt when I look at my child. And I think about how he used to be. And now, I don't know will he ever be like that again.
Cedric Henderson was moved to a different Nebraska hospital recently. Officials are worried about his safety. If he shows signs of recovery, he could once again become a target of gang violence.
On America Close Up tonight, teenage gangs. For generations, these gangs have been identified with cities, but now they've spread to the suburbs. One suburban community has taken a unique and controversial approach to solving the problem. A new government survey found that there are now more than 4,000 gangs across the country and more than 250,000 gang members. Fred Briggs reports tonight from Evanston, Illinois.
That's around me. Put your hands on the wall. Keep them on the wall.
This is one reason families move out of cities, to get away from crime, drugs, and the gangs that dispense both freely. This is Evanston on Chicago's northern edge, 75,000 people, best known as the home of Northwestern University, a city of big old homes, tree-lined streets, and a reputation for racial harmony. Yet gangs have formed in recent years. About 400 kids are in them, mini versions of the gangs in the city to the south.
These are Evanston gangs, Evanston natives, but there are connections to the Chicago gangs.
3 Evanston teens were killed in gang shootings in the past year, and people were upset. Their message to the city, do something.
What do we want? Peace! Peace! When do we want it? Now!
One thing it did was set up a summer jobs program for 100 kids doing cleanup work in the city's alleys.
I think this program really helped me stay off the streets and everything and just stay out of trouble.
That didn't work for everyone, so Evanston's Human Relations Commission had another idea, an ad campaign with posters and a television public service announcement.
If they gave medals for killing black people, this gang would win a bronze. This gang, the silver. This gang would win the gold. If you're in a gang, you're not a brother. You're a traitor.
There was an uproar from some members of the city council when it was screened, from some of the black community, too, who thought it outright racism.
This little brother right here put a tank top on him and turned his hat around, and he's one of them. He's a Klan member. Come on.
The spots were created at no charge by an ad agency executive who said it was talking with young black athletes that gave him the idea.
How can you call each other brother if you're killing people? It's just dead wrong. I think you're sleeping with the enemy here.
Janann Woods Ransom heads the Evanston branch of Mothers Against Gangs. She thinks the TV spot is right on target.
What does your own son say about it?
He doesn't have a problem with it. He said that it's true. We are killing each other, and if we do kill one another, that we are betraying our own race, and that we are no better than the Klan.
The summer jobs program ended last Friday. The kids who helped clean up the city earned $4.50 an hour. Now, with school starting, they all know gangs offer ways of making money. As for the television spot, which has been seen only on newscasts, one line has been changed. Instead of saying, this gang wins the gold, now it's...
But it won't be a hate group that wins the gold.
But will it reach the audience it needs to reach?
It's good, but nobody's going to listen to it.
Why not?
Because they're still killing people. It's not going to stop them.
What the anti-gang forces have going for them is the gangs have very little turf, have fairly small numbers, and have most of the city against them. Fred Briggs, NBC News, Evanston, Illinois.
One positive footnote from California, 50 rival gangs in the Los Angeles area have signed a truce after 8 months of negotiation.